Hello and welcome to today's episode of What's Next, Life After Sports. Today, I'm your host, Louis Baker, and I have a great guest with me, dear friend of mine, Eric Sonheim. He's a technology consultant, one of the big consulting firms, a former college swimmer, and one of my good friends who helped me get through my master's degree as we got through that thing together. But super excited to have Eric here. What's up, Eric? How you doing, man?
Doing great. Well, excited to be here. Thanks for having me. First podcast ever, so excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, no, it's fun. We hang out. We have some good questions. We have some good conversations. I'm super excited to dive in a little bit more to your background and your journey into tech consulting, what it was like being a college swimmer, what it was like making that transition after. But dude, let's start at the top. Let's start with you swimming, starting. How did you get into swimming? Like what was the decision there? Did you play other sports growing up? Like give me 10 to 15-year-old Eric.
Yeah. We'll start from the beginning because I think that's the most relevant for this, podcast format that you have going here. So, my parents threw me in the water when I was like 5 years old. Just to learn how to swim. I feel like every kid kind of has that where their parents will at least like teach them safety. But I stuck with it for a couple of years and actually got somewhat good at it just at the small swim academy that I had, and they had recommended that I go and try out. So I started at a club team when I was around like 10 years old or so in Southern California. Really bottom of the rung. I was top of that small swim academy, but not even close to good yet at the bigger swim club. I actually disqualified ever in my first race that I did with them. I did backstroke, touched the wall, turned over, and got DQ'd. So definitely started from the bottom there. But yeah, started kind of getting a little bit better as I got in my teenage years, like later teenage years, 16, 17. That's kind of where swimming in college seemed like more of a reality. At that level, I kind of knew probably wasn't ever going to make like the Olympic level, like NC double A Division One, like making those kind of meets. So I was like, I'll see where I can go at that age. And I kind of put out feelers to swim in college. Like I wanted a mix of a good college because I was going in as a engineer and also good athletics, which is actually a pretty hard mix to find, um, especially when you're not like top level athlete. If you're like kind of middle of the pack, it's pretty hard to get that balance. And also, I was trying to get some sort of scholarship, so it's a hard thing to find. Eventually, I was down to two schools. I got an offer at D2, Colorado School of Mines in
Oh yeah.
Colorado, and then Rochester, which is D3. I visited both schools and just kind of from the visitation, like how, welcome I felt and how much I thought I'd be able to contribute to the team. That's how I started, or that's how I made my decision rather, of where to go. So eventually chose Rochester, New York, swam there, got my undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering. As you mentioned earlier, we both stuck around, got our degrees
Yep.
signed in finance, and then from there jumped off into my consulting journey at Deloitte.
Yeah. I mean, one, amazing. Two, hilarious that your parents did sort of what mine did, and I'm sure plenty of parents did, which was, all right, kid, go swim. Here you go. Throw you in the water. You're either going to sink or swim. I'd say it's sort of a rite of passage in Australia growing up because there's beaches and pools and everywhere. So I think pretty much every Australian can swim. I too did a lot of swimming growing up. It was a lot of fun. I was more of a freestyler personally and a little bit of backstroke. What did you do?
I was sprint freestyle to mid distance freestyle. I mean, my best event is probably 200 freestyle. So
Okay. Okay, cool. How many different events did you swim at Rochester?
Rochester, I was pretty much in my own zone there. I was in the 50 freestyle, 100 freestyle, 200 freestyle. I'd run that rotation pretty much at every dual meet championship meet, but occasionally, like once or twice, they would throw me in like a butterfly event or like a distance event, and it usually didn't go well.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Fish out of water on that one. Um, okay, cool. Love it. Did you play any other sports growing up, or did you pretty much just swim? I mean, you're a pretty big guy, so no football, no basketball. Like, did you play anything else?
I did a few years of soccer when I was really young, like 8 to 10,
Okay.
but kinda gave that up, and I wasn't always bigger. I think joining, Rochester, I wanna say I was like 160 pounds, so I was pretty
Wow.
thin going into college.
Okay.
So a lot of that, like, came with the collegiate, like, weight room training. Um,
Yeah.
that didn't really, in high school, I feel like most swimmers don't really focus on that, at least 10 years ago. Maybe it's evolved since.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like the sports world in terms of sports science has evolved so quickly. Like if I think of baseball and golf and stuff like that, the sports that I was most involved with, the world has just changed so much. Like everything is down to a science at this point. Like the swing, the fielding, pitch, every single thing, every pitch, every swing, everything is down to a science. And I mean, I would assume has swimming evolved? I know there's a lot of I remember there being controversy on the different types of swimming uniforms that people used to have at the Olympics, and like some were more streamlined and some were had less lag and resistance. But talk to me a little bit. Has swimming changed much throughout the years?
It really has a lot, and I kind of got to see the more modern journey, from like 2016 to 2020 of how it's changed. Back in the day, like the late 90s and then early 2000s, like when I was growing up swimming, like 2009 to 2014, it was more so just distance. Like, how far can these guys go? Like, can we just make them swim all day and like they'll get better
Yeah.
that way? That's how the mindset was back then. But very recently, in the last like 15 years, it's more so like quality over very sprint oriented. There was a guy who just broke the 50-meter long course record in the 50 free that was standing for like I think 15 years or so since like 2009. And he has a whole Instagram page. His name is blanking off the top of my head, but if you look up the world record holder, you'll see his training regimen, and he like exclusively does like weighted pull-ups and then just sprints off the blocks. Like that's all he does.
Okay.
Uh, and he got the world record training that way. So it's evolved a lot for sure.
I mean, that's incredible. It feels kind of like the Usain Bolt diet of like, I remember watching his documentary. He just would run in the pool and then run on the beach and then all of a sudden just go out and just like break every single record possible. Okay, that's cool. Um, all right. So let's talk a little bit about your journey after swimming. So you started as a mechanical engineer major, and then you're swimming and you graduate and you're like, what do I do? So talk to me about that process and what was your decision matrix on how you ended up deciding to pursue Simon Business School.
Yeah, so to put that a little bit into perspective, that year that I was graduating, was 2020, so that was the COVID year. Um, so that year, that was before the market kind of boomed a little bit in 2021, 2022, in terms of like job hiring and whatnot. So there wasn't that many options of, job prospects at that time. So I was like, what do I want to do? I already had a little bit of experience as a quality engineer in like a small machine shop, and I was doing that. It was good experience. I liked the people I worked with, but just long term career trajectory, like that wasn't really the route I wanted to go. And it would have been pretty hard at that time to work my way in like the big defense companies like Lockheed, L3 Harris. I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that anyways. So like, you know what? Now's a good time. They offer 1 year programs here at Simon. That year, I know it was a little higher demand for the school to bring people in. So I was able to pretty easily get in for that year. Um, luckily met you as well that year. We toughed it out together. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be, honestly. Um,
Oh, yeah.
coming from engineering, I thought I got this. Like I've done really high level math, physics. Like I can handle business, but the way Simon does it is tough. Uh,
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, we did a master quantitative finance. Like it wasn't supposed to be easy.
yeah,
Like I
exactly.
think that's the thing is I don't think it was designed to be easy, but with saying that, I will completely agree. It was way harder than I expected it to be.
Yep. So I used
Um,
that time. sorry, to continue on, just to wrap up that question,
Yeah.
I, during that time, had an extra year to network with people. I connected with a few people that had, been on my path that were engineers that jumped over into more like the corporate world, the, consulting world, networked with them, and they actually made some introductions to me, in the consulting space at Deloitte, and I was that's how I was able to kind of leverage that time and experience at Simon to jump into, consulting.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome. So, let's double click a little bit on that. So, as an athlete, I want to talk a little bit about and explore with you recruitment because I feel like as an athlete, when you graduate, not everyone does internships. Some people do, some people don't. They get to, figure out if they do an internship, they get to figure out, like you did, like maybe this isn't quite for me. But a lot of people don't get to do that because of their sport demands. Talk to me a little bit about how you went about finding your tech consulting role and figuring out that's the fit for you versus other avenues.
Yeah, well, I think I was more so worked backwards about learning about what I didn't wanna do first, and then that kind of pushed me in the right direction. Luckily, I mean, my experience is a little bit different. The way that swimming works is our season goes from, like, August through February, at least in college, so we have some downtime, over the spring and summer to look for internships and then work an internship. I know not everybody, especially if you're competing in, like, D1, not everyone has that luxury, so it can be a little. I didn't even get an internship in engineering until my senior year. A lot of people after their sophomore, junior years are getting experience, and then that'll kind of, tell them if that's an area they'd like to pursue. But I didn't have that until my senior year, so that's when I kind of got the realization, like, okay, I don't want to be doing this forever. And to continue on with the people that don't necessarily have the opportunity to get internships in the areas that they're looking at before they graduate, I would say network as much as you can with other people to learn about the spaces that you're in or that you're interested in, because that's really the only way you're gonna be able to do a lot of research, network with people. And networking with people is never going to hurt you. That's going to be your best friend, as I'm sure you know, Louis. In terms of getting jobs, just learning more across the board, because they're going to be able to link you into places that you're never going to see job postings for online potentially, and you're going to learn so much outside of like what information's available for you.
Dude, networking is such an incredibly powerful tool when done right. Not only can you explore what the other people do for jobs and they can teach you about their area, I mean, you can make really good friends doing it if you do it correctly too. And some of those friends can become lifelong connections that can open the door for job opportunities that you never thought even possible. I personally had that with my current job. I had a really good friend who introduced me to this role that was not even really advertised at the time. And I landed this role because of it. So couldn't agree more with that statement. Talk to me a little bit about recruiting as an athlete specifically. Do you have any tips that athletes should go about with networking compared to sort of your regular college students?
Well, having being an athlete, you kind of have a built-in network a little bit. Especially, if you're collegiate level athlete, we're talking about here. I was able to talk to former swimmers at Rochester that had gone on and do other things. I was one of the people I talked to actually that worked at Deloitte. So you have, I would say, an expanded built-in network where alum, especially in your sport or other sports, are, I think, more eager to help out athletes. I found because they understand your journey, they understand the experience. So I think that is, where I'd come from on that.
I love that. I completely agree with that. I feel like I've had pretty good success with athletes in general, but if I double click into baseball, I feel like that is a really strong network that people will go to bat for you. No, I completely agree with that.
You just have built-in similarities with them, and I mean, I've actually had Rochester athletes reach out to me on LinkedIn, and they're the ones that I'm most eager to help out, I would say.
I agree. I do agree with that take. Okay. By the way, I do think my 2 cents on that, whilst I agree that our alumni, sorry, our school that we went to and the graduates from there in sport as athletes, I wanna help out. I would say if you are an athlete at any good school or respectable school that I know has a pretty good academic reputation and also pretty good athletics. I know you've had to balance some pretty tough scheduling, and I hold a lot of respect to that, and I have no problem referring for those types of people once I sort of screen them for personality.
100%. I would say any athlete out there, feel free to reach out. I mean, most people are willing to help you, more so than you would think. Like, just take the leap, reach out. I've done it a bunch, and I know a bunch of others have reached out to me. So,
Yeah, completely agree. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your transition into tech consulting. So you decided, all right, I'm going to go get my mechanical engineering degree. Then I'm going to go try quantitative finance. And now I'm going to network for jobs in the consulting firm, in the consulting world. I found what I like a little bit. Talk to me about the transition out of school and into the consulting firm your first year.
yeah, it's a lot of, which I think even like in college, not just athletes, but in general, like college students, it's a lot of learning in the moment, especially like your first year. It's a whole different environment, and I feel like jumping into the workforce, especially at a big firm like consulting, it does kinda remind you of your freshman year a little bit. Like, you have a group of people that you, come on board with. Everyone's trying to find their place, in the firm. So, there's kind of that aspect to it, but also, like, just doing your job day to day, like, there's a lot of just learning on the job that college can't prepare you for. So, just, like, take the feedback as much as you can. Like, there's gonna be constructive criticism, and that's one thing that I had to learn is like, okay, just take the feedback as you get it and, put your head down, do it, and move on, and, things, will just take care of themselves from there.
Okay, I completely agree with that. Talk to me a little bit about the freshman year vibes. I completely agree. Going into a big firm, you come in with a cohort of people, you go to training together, you go to one of these locations where they teach everyone the way the firm does it. Talk to me about how you went about making friends when you decided to make that pivot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just an extension of, your social life in college a little bit. Just you have to be open to meeting people, um, same as you are in college. Luckily, I had a good group in Austin. I mean, Austin is a city that people like to go out, have fun on the weekends. So it's pretty easy to find a group that wants to hang out after work hours, and that's how our relationship blossomed from there.
Yeah, I agree. Talk to me a little bit about Austin. So Rochester is where we went to school, but you decided to go to Austin. I originally went to Chicago and then Charlotte. But talk to me a little bit about the decision making process for I'm graduating college. I want to go do a specific type of job, but I don't know where I want to live. Talk to me about how you made the decision for Austin and how you decided to live there.
Yeah, so that is a good question because I know a lot of people that attend, big colleges are moving across the country, in your case, across the world to go there. You don't necessarily know if that's where you want to live for forever, just the time that you're, in college there. Um, so I grew up in Southern California. I knew I always wanted to kind of come back to a warmer climate. Rochester, New York was not going to be my forever home. So did my 5 years there. And I was like, when I was graduating, at least the way that Deloitte has it is you can, and I'm sure it's similar for a lot of other firms as well, is you can pick like your top three locations. And based on market demand, they'll put you where you're best fit. And I just put Austin. I knew I had family down here in Texas. I knew I wanted to come to a warmer climate, so I put Austin as my number one, and it
Okay, love that. All right. Talk to me a little bit about the school of hard knocks in your first year. So, on the job, what were some of the tough lessons that you learned in your first year?
luckily, I didn't screw up anything too badly my first year. So, nothing that was like a huge mistake that I had to, work back from 0 on. But more so just like small things, like learning how Deloitte does things day to day. Like that was a big one that it takes a few months to just learn all the internal processes that go on. Uh, so just a lot of like small things that, like I said before, you just have to take the feedback. And I think that's a problem that a lot of non-student athletes have and personally, like, dealing with, other people at the firm sometimes that I've had is they don't wanna deal with, like, constructive criticism, but as athletes, I think we have that built-in mechanism where if you don't deal with that, you're never gonna get better. So that's something that I think in your first year, you have to take head on.
Okay, I completely agree. Let's double click a little bit on that because that's a really good point. I think if I reflect on my time as an athlete, I view that there are certain traits and skills, both physically, mentally, tools that you're equipped with. If I think about myself as an athlete and I think of my peers as athletes that have moved in the professional world, let's talk about some skills that you're really well equipped for in the workplace that give you an advantage. What do you think some of those might be?
I think, 1, being adaptable, like, you have to be adaptable in your sport to get better. That's a huge one, especially in consulting. It's like things change day to day, market trends change. Like you have to be um, adaptable. Number two is just I think being able to work hard. Um, that we growing up in any sport, you from an early age know like what you put into it is what you get out of it. You have to put your head down and just work hard sometimes, and that's uncomfortable. And a lot of non athletes don't have that experience in a lot of areas. So if things get tough, it's I think much easier for former athletes to just say, "Okay, I'll put my head down and work hard and get through."
I would agree with that. When I think of some of my best buddies who have done and flourished really well in intense environments, they have been given the challenge and they said, "You know what? I got this. Like, I'll put my head down. I've done this before. It's I've done the 5 a.m. weight room and I've done the 11 p.m. wrapping up study hall to go to the 5 a.m. weight room the next day and the day after and the day after." And you're kind of able to tap into that mindset and just go, "Yep, you know what? I got this. Like, I can put my head down and do this." But saying that, I do think that a lot of people that are adjusting to the workplace for the first time who haven't had that experience, whether it was athletics or military or some other dedicated thing, it's a shock. It's definitely a shock for them, and I think that's something that they have to sort of adjust to and make the pivot mentally and be able to bring and develop develop those skills and that mindset over time. So I would say being able to just put your head down, get things done, but also be adaptable are really good advantages to being an athlete in the professional workplace. Completely agree. With saying that, every advantage has its disadvantage. Let's talk about a couple disadvantages you think you carry from being an athlete into the workplace.
I mean, that is a hard one because I think a lot of it is advantages, I would say, but I think some of the disadvantages maybe are that some of your coworkers don't always like understand, like have the same um priorities in life. I guess is an easy way to put it. So like if you want to spend more time staying healthy, like getting time into to exercise and you're like going to client sites and dinners and things, you won't have that time necessarily to balance. And I think that's a disadvantage and it can kind of I think eat at you mentally if you're traveling a lot on the road a lot and you don't have that time to yourself that you otherwise have. I think other people are more used to that than more so athletes that are, like, on strict schedules. Like, when I travel and when even not traveling, working remotely, I like to stick to my set routine, and that can be a hard disruption.
Okay, I completely agree. So, what I hear there is disruption to routines, where you're very good at building routines as an athlete. It's definitely an advantage, but disruptions to that is a disadvantage when it can be tough. But also, talk to me a little bit about the communication thing. I do agree that there is a communication, what feels like almost a communication barrier sometimes and like an expectation misalignment. Um, I have felt that before. And I think I want to hear a little bit about your experience with that because I have felt that there is definitely sometimes some friction between how you can deliver communication. Sometimes it can come across a little blunt because you can be sort of like, oh, that's not a big deal. Like it's not a big ask of me for you to do that. Or I feel like this is a very normal and routine thing to do to sort of go above and beyond because this is what I'm used to doing. But for someone who's not used to that, that can backfire a little bit sometimes. So double click on that a little bit for me.
Yeah, I think you have a really good point there, which I think athletes are very results. oriented. Like if you're not consistently not getting the results you want, I mean, you switch up and do what gets you the results. In the corporate world, they say they're results oriented as well, but to get there, sometimes, like you said, it can be a little blunt. If you know the way that things should be done to get there, and other people aren't as accepting of that or aren't willing to hear it, it can be a little tough communicating with that. But I think that's something that you learn as you experience, especially if you come in as like uh, first year analyst. You kind of learn, okay, I need to know my place. I need to keep my mouth shut in certain instances, and you kind of learn how how things go from there.
Okay, I completely agree. I think it probably took me 3 years, maybe, oh my goodness, maybe 4 years to figure out, which is way too long, by the way, I don't recommend, to figure out the whole, "Okay, I need to communicate in a much more effective way that's able to communicate to everyone, not just those who I sort of view as, like, able to understand me," which, I talk about and we talk about being adaptable as athletes. I think that's probably one of the areas that I was just not very adaptable in. And I definitely got some feedback over that throughout my first few years, especially as I got promoted and got into roles where I started to lead people and lead teams. Learning to be a little more understanding of, okay, these are the buttons I can push, these are the buttons I can't push, have been really important lessons for me to learn. And also with saying that, as I go out of my 20s in the next year or so and into, the 30s, I think I've started to chill a little bit. So I do think that that has happened as well, and I feel like I'm able to take the edge off a little bit, which has also helped with my communication, but I don't know. What have you seen for you? What's helped you the most?
Yeah, I think everything you've just mentioned, I've gone through the same process in one way or another. But there's also you mentioned like how to communicate. I think there's times when like just leaving it and staying quiet can help as well, especially when you're the younger level. And if you're, hot-headed, or if you are very strongly opinionated on certain things, like sometimes it's good to just let things ride. And a lot of the times, the more senior partners, senior managers, they'll have an opinion that's gonna outweigh you 10 times out of 10. So best to just like
Yes.
learn and grow as you progress through your career.
I couldn't agree more, and that is definitely something that you sort of have to check the ego at the door. But yeah, no, completely agree. Talk to me a little bit about keeping up with your sport. Do you keep up with your sport, swimming specifically, now that you're done with it?
Yeah, I do actually. I just competed in a masters national meet. I've done that. This is my third time doing it. I just find that it gives me a goal. It's usually April May timeframe every year, so I train for like 4 or 5 months just to have a goal, so I don't gain too much weight, stay in shape, and then just the rest of the year, I like to just do other sort of fitness activities that keep me in shape. But I feel like it keeps me sane to stay involved.
I completely agree. Actually, it's something I wanted to talk about a little bit with you, which was you mentioned routine and you mentioned sort of your fitness routine. How do you keep your routine on in your job, and how did you set it? Like, what did you set and what is your routine?
Yeah, I try to when I'm training for swimming, I'm like, I need to swim 5 or 6 days a week. It's gonna happen regardless. So I just try to find the time during the week to do it. And then when I'm not training for swimming, I'm like, I'm still gonna lift 3 days a week and swim 3 days a week. I'm just gonna find time to do it. Sometimes that means getting up really early, like 4 or 5 a.m. Sometimes that means going really late in the day. It really just depends week to week.
Yeah. Okay. Talk to me a little about a typical day in the life for Eric Sonheim. What is it? Like, give me your typical Tuesday. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I guess at work, or before I start work, sometimes I'd either train, like do my athletics in the morning, or after work, just depends on the day or the week. But an actual work day, it really, in consulting world, I'm sure you're aware too, it really depends on like what we have a lot of different phases in technology implementations. We have phases where we're designing a product for a client, where we're building, doing the delivery, the testing and delivery, and then deploying it to production. So throughout those phases, it really depends on like what you're doing. Because day to day, you could be in design sessions with the client. You could be working with your technical team to build something out that day. That's what you're spending most of your time on. You could be spending time documenting things, or you could be in meetings all day. So it really depends on what's going on. But typical day looks like anything I just laid out from about like 8 to 6.
Okay, love it. So 8 to 6 is your typical schedule, when you're at home, assuming when you're on the road, it's probably a little more intense and a little more hours, is that correct?
Generally speaking, yes. Luckily, I haven't had to be on the road too much. Usually about 1 or 2 times a year. With my current project, is what it's looking like. That can always change at any time. So again, back to adaptability. You have to be adaptable to that.
Yeah.
But even when I'm on the road, like I feel like the work necessarily isn't longer. It's more so that having to spend time with your coworkers and build those relationships with your clients. That's what takes the extra time when you're traveling.
Okay, love it. Wanted to ask, what are your top couple things that you really enjoy about being a tech consultant?
Top things are you can really have the opportunity to try a lot of different things um, and work with clients in a lot of different industries. Primarily, I've been in the technology, media, entertainment, but there's clients in like government, in life science, defense. Like you can go into all of these because they all also need. I work in high volume billing software for subscriptions. So all of those types of companies have products and services that require that. So you can really get your foot in the door in like any type of industry you want. And that's a big interest to me, and you also just get to meet a lot of different people across the board that working in a normal job, you would just be with your team, with your group. You wouldn't get to work with people across the firm in all different areas. So I'd say those are my big 2 things.
Okay, love it. If you were to have someone come up and ask you, what is the most important thing that I need to prepare for in the life of a technology consultant as I graduate from college, what would you say are your best people's pieces of advice for that person?
I would say back to communication like we were discussing earlier, you have to be someone, any consultant, not even just tech consulting, like you have to be someone that other people want to spend time with. And you're continuously selling yourself throughout your entire job, like jumping from one project client to another. You have to build a reputation around yourself, have a portfolio of work. So being able to have your skills and be personable and be likable, though that's very important and that will carry throughout your entire career. So I would say, because especially like the last few years have been the COVID years, people have been more isolated, haven't wanted to go out as much. You have to step outside of your comfort zone and meet people and build those relationships early.
Okay. Love that. So we both have selected, I would call pretty intense jobs out of college. You know, you went into consulting. I originally started in the mergers and acquisition space and then sort of found my way into sort of finance consulting and now over to management consulting. We've started in intense jobs. I don't really know what a non-intense job looks like yet. I don't know if you have sort of any insight into that through your internships, but what advice would you give to someone who is considering a fast-paced and intense job versus maybe one of a more slower, more evenly paced corporate job if you were to be asked that by a by an athlete?
I think it depends on what you personally want out of it. At the end of the day, if your goal is to make money and progress in a career long term, you're gonna have to step outside of your comfort zone and step up to something that's gonna be more difficult. That's just how it is. And I think a lot of athletes are already well positioned to do that. So I wouldn't I would say I would never advise an athlete to kind of take the quote unquote easier route with more work life balance early on. Because now is gonna be the best time to just put your head down and work hard, and a lot of opportunities will come out of that. That if you take the easier route, more work life balance earlier on, I feel like you're just not going to have the opportunities later on. Because I feel like as an athlete, you already are adapted to that, and you'll greatly have things later in your life, even in our like 40s by that point, I think we'll be pretty well positioned that if you take it easier now, you're just not going to have as many options later on.
Okay. Yes, I think that's definitely an interesting perspective. But no, agreed. It's definitely I believe it. That's the reason I'm doing it. I'm not working all these hours just to sort of not have it pay off later. So, fingers crossed, hopefully it does. But talk to me a little bit about identity. One of the big things and one of the big themes about this podcast is talking and discussing the transition out of athletics from I was an athlete to now I'm a worker. I am someone who is no longer an athlete. How did you handle that transition out of being a collegiate swimmer and now into the professional world?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like it comes down to a lot of like internal things. You have to have hobbies and interests and people outside of your sport that that in your case baseball, in my case swimming, like it doesn't take over your entire identity, and once it's done, it's done. So like definitely don't let those things lack as you're going through like your high school collegiate journey right now. But once you're in the workforce, I would say continue to do things you're interested in. You'll have a little bit more time to pursue things because you're not training like you were in college. Pursue things that you're interested in, and in some cases, that might even be coming back to your sport to some extent. So that identity may not even slip away fully as you go, but just try to keep some sort of balance in your life, is what I would say.
Okay, love that. I mean, for you, you're still swimming in the masters event, so it's terrific that you get to stay in touch with your sport and sort of still enjoy it now at a social level. I think, for myself, when I was done with baseball, I don't even think I went and picked up a bat, a ball, looked at a game. I for about 4 years. I think until my brother got to college and started playing at Georgia Tech, I don't think I was involved in the slightest with baseball. I don't think I've even watched a Major League Baseball game. It hurt so bad that baseball was over, and I will say I fell in the trap of letting my entire identity wrap around being an athlete and being a baseball player because it's all I ever wanted to do. So when it was done, it really hurt. So I appreciate what you're saying there and can completely understand that, hey, don't let your identity become wrapped up in being an athlete because it really backfires later if you haven't learned how to balance, you know, significant others, church, a community, some kind of other hobbies outside of it. Because when you do move to the workforce, you're right, you're going to have a lot more time on your hands. But yeah, completely agree, man. Well, hey, Eric, this has been awesome, man. I really do appreciate you jumping on here. And this has been a really fun conversation. I'm really glad we got to catch up. It's been a little bit, but thanks for sharing your journey and, your transition. It's really cool to see someone who has come out of, same school I went to, similar path a lot of the time in a lot of the ways, and you've gone on to do something pretty similar to what I have. It's really cool, man. You're doing really well, so I'm really excited for you. And yeah, man, let's stay in touch. This has been great. Thank you so much for joining.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great conversation.
Absolutely, man. Take care. Thank you for tuning in, everyone, to today's episode of What's Next Life After Sports. We'll see you at the next one. Bye.